What's going on, y'all? Simba Ali, the North Star Podcast. Like I told you, I bring you the best content on YouTube currently, right? In these YouTube streets, you got a lot of old niggas that have been selling heroin for a lot of years, and you got the new niggas who are selling crack. We ain't necessarily built up the clientele, but we got that shit. That's me, Simba Ali. Welcome to the North Star Podcast. Sitting down with my close friend, Austin Mcgregor.
How's it going?
We here. You know what I mean? Thank you for being on the show, bro.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
It's good to see you, man.
Good to see you too.
Yeah.
It's crazy to just see you out here, and like last time we seen each other, well, you came to Minnesota and we seen each other when you stopped in Minnesota. But your wedding is when we kind of reconnected since you've been out here.
That was a good time.
That was a good time, man. Yeah. Lovely wife. Lovely wife.
Thank you.
You don't deserve her. You're just scum.
I've been told that many times.
You don't deserve her. You're fucking. No, I'm happy for you. Yeah. Very happy. And one of the things that I want to talk to you about was how the transition happened. How did you get from us hanging out in Minnesota, Minneapolis, Minnesota all day, to being an actual California resident, and you're actual Californian right now? So how did this happen?
Okay, so the biggest draw was the cannabis industry. I've been involved. Started out obviously in the black market in Midwest, and we kind of became what I was known for. Then I started growing a little bit.
So you mean selling drugs like all the rest of us? Selling drugs like everybody else. Basically, yeah, I got zips, I got quarters. Yeah, let's go. They going.
I was the weed guy.
Yeah, okay,
when you still had finger scales and triple beams,
Right, an official war on drug veteran. Let's go.
Right, yeah. So came out to Humboldt, saw some grow operations, expanded my mind, and it was something I just had to do. So the very first place I moved to was Humboldt. I actually moved up north before I moved to Southern California. One of the biggest things I noticed was how people were kind of doing it in an industrial setting, and that was something that really interested me and became something that I might want to do on my free time. I lived up there for about 3 years on and off, and then started kind of coming down to Southern California for business, and me and my wife ended up moving in together in Huntington Beach, and just started to become more of a hassle to go up north and down south on Q400 little prop jets.
So Humboldt where is Humboldt?
Humboldt is 11-hour drive from this location.
Okay.
So, and that's the short end of the drive. It's more like 13 hours. So okay. And the only way to get up there is to take a jet to San Francisco, and then you take a little prop jet into this kind of foggy mountain area, and you're not ever really guaranteed that the jet's going to be able to land. Sometimes it's too foggy, and they have to land about a 3-hour drive from there in the Redding area in Mount Shasta. It's kind of a treacherous area to get in and out of.
Damn.
Hence, the super secluded grow population. I've met people up there that have never even visited the Bay Area, and they only live 5 hours away.
Wow.
Talk about isolation. People that live completely off the grid up there, have spent their entire lives, drinking out of streams and running off generators and growing marijuana.
Wow.
So it's a completely different culture.
Now, where is that?
This is the Emerald Triangle.
Emerald Triangle.
Yeah, you have Humboldt County.
Humboldt County, which is known for marijuana.
Absolutely. Okay. Then Mendocino County, which is another one that's known for growing marijuana. You have strains like the Mendo Purps.
Okay.
And then Shasta County, which is the inland part of the triangle. So you have the southern tip is Mendocino, the northern tip is Humboldt County, and the eastern side of the triangle is Shasta County. And that makes up the Emerald Triangle.
That's the Emerald Triangle. Mm-hmm. Holy shit. Wow. Okay. So now from you coming from, was there kind of a culture shock being a Minnesota kid and coming out to California?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would say the biggest thing was that it was the very beginning of the Obama administration. And a lot of people in Humboldt County believed that when Obama got into office in 2008, that immediately everything was going to be legalized. And actually quite the opposite happened in the community. Niggas gonna do it.
He's gonna legalize it. We've been waiting. We seen him smoking in Chicago.
So, right. He did give people that were, on strict and stringent license applications and processes, a little more open rein. But as far as cracking down on any small black market or any small legal operations, it became extremely hectic in that area, and Fed involvement and local state police involvement skyrocketed the second he was elected, and that was right when I moved there. So it was a very chaotic place to live. And considering that the economy was largely funded on a redwood mill industry, so it's the largest redwood area in the nation. There's 10,000 square acres, which is the size of Minnesota or something like that, of just redwoods. When it became illegal to mill the redwoods, the economy slumped, and the entire population of the area turned to the cannabis industry, but about 90% of it was black market. So currently, I think all of Humboldt County, Mendocino, and Shasta, mostly Humboldt, but I think over 85% of their economy is actually marijuana industry. So instead of seeing flatbeds, trucks with flatbeds that have building materials for new buildings, you have flatbeds with grow materials. And they're, they're going into the woods. And then you see dilapidated buildings that still have lead paint in the actual cities, and high drug addiction problem, high homeless problem. You can see that really the background is where the economy is stable, and in the forefront it is not. It's completely different culture, complete culture shock. Yes, absolutely.
Right. Wow. Mm-hmm. So now, when you came to California, was that always kind of in the back of your mind that you wanted to basically start what you have right now? Was that kind of your purpose for coming to California, or did you just kind of want to change from Minnesota, just kind of get away from Minnesota? Or was coming to California, did you kind of have a little foresight? Like, I kind of see that things might open up there. That's what I want to do. Mm-hmm.
So my first operation in Humboldt was a 22 lighter. And I think we profited somewhere around $90,000. That was a lot of money for 3 months of work, and something that I invested roughly $15,000 in. So my first operation was a success. That was very enticing. That was kind of what I wanted to do. Not really sure of how I wanted to do it, but I knew that there was money to be made, a significant amount, in a short amount of time, more than I was used to making. We grew up in the same neighborhood. Mm-hmm. That kind of money was unheard of, to make. And the fact that I made it in such a turmoiled environment, in kind of the heart of it, gave me more of a boost, I would say, and more confidence to kind of go into, the larger aspects of the industry. But as far as ending up in a warehouse in Southern California near Disneyland, growing, thousands of plants.
You didn't see that shit? You didn't see that shit, did you? I know, goddamn. Like I said, we grew up right across the street. Fuck out of here, man. That was crazy. Yeah. That's beautiful. Mm-hmm. So what are some of still, as far as legislation with cannabis? I understand that it's still everywhere, not federally accepted. It's state sanctioned.
So right now, currently there's over 35 states that in some form or fashion support the marijuana industry. 17 were just pushed over the line. You have states like Oklahoma, Nevada, Washington, Oregon, Colorado, Idaho. I mean, the state lists are lining up. New York to some extent.
Vegas,
the Eastern movement was a little halted until as of recent, and now we have more of the Eastern states, and a lot of the Southern states are jumping on board, which is really pushing the movement. Also, we have Chuck Schumer and Kamala in office, and they are for legislation of marijuana. So two of the things that they're trying to get pushed right away is the Safe Harbor Act.
Kamala Harris is pro-marijuana?
Kamala Harris is pro-marijuana. She wasn't for a long time, but she's actually the Senate leader when it comes. It's Chuck Schumer right now who's Senate leader. Okay?
Chuck Schumer, yeah.
But Chuck Schumer and Kamala Harris are actually in charge of the bill, the MORE Act and the Safe Harbor Act. Okay. So they're the ones trying to get it pushed through Senate.
And what is the Safe Harbor Act?
So the Safe Harbor Act allows federal banking institutions to do business with the marijuana industry. Because right now,
which is why they're not. It's because the feds can come.
We
can't give you guys business until these guys say
Exactly. You can't leave our money with us, because if you do, the feds can come in and take it.
Right.
And we are federally insured. There is a conflict of interest here.
Right.
So the Safe Harbor Act is a big one. If that is to pass, even without the federal legalization of marijuana and the descheduling of marijuana.
So time out, Austin. Safe Harbor Act?
Safe Harbor Act.
If everybody out there watching North Star Podcast, I know some people, this might go over your head, but Safe Harbor Act. The word of the day is Safe Harbor Act.
Safe Harbor Act.
Safe Harbor Act. Okay.
Also, we have the MORE Act. So the MORE Act is important because what it does is it takes a lot of the criminalization of marijuana and the sentencings that have taken place, life sentences, 15, 20, 30 years for, possession of marijuana. What the MORE Act does is it deschedules it and actually and works retroactively for people who are convicted for marijuana related
crimes.
Okay.
So it's going back to get the people that were charged and sentenced and have problems in the judicial system because of past marijuana, the things we were doing before everything got so gravy. Okay.
Without the MORE Act, a lot of this is taking place now. So a lot of marijuana charges are being expunged in the state of California, is one of the states that's leading the way in this. But the biggest thing that comes out of the MORE Act is the descheduling of marijuana as a Schedule I narcotic.
Right.
That is the biggest problem for the industry as far as the legal attributes are concerned.
Isn't one the lowest possible thing that a drug can be?
So one is the highest possible.
Oh, one is the highest.
Yeah.
So weed is in there with cocaine?
Weed is in there with heroin and methamphetamines. Cocaine is actually, I think, is lower. So I think cocaine.
Shit.
I'm not positive,
Fuck.
but yeah, we're talking the worst of the worst.
We got work to do, people.
Is what marijuana is scheduled.
So the Safe Harbor Act and the MORE Act.
The MORE Act.
Those two things.
Yes.
All right. Look at that. Now, are these things that you've just gotten interested in currently, or is this something, have you been following legislation as you've been growing for the last couple years? You've kind of been keeping a tab on where legislation as far as cannabis and marijuana is going? Or is that just something currently, now that you've got this operation, that you're really starting to immerse yourself in the education because this is what you do?
Okay, so yes, there's to answer that question, there's two parts to answer that. One is because I'm invested in this industry personally. It's my occupation. So I would love to know where it's going, so I know where my resume and my career are headed. Two, it's also because politics tends to sway the stock market, and there is a large cannabis ETF, which is it's a category of stocks that are Canadian and some American that have gone through the vetting process and the legal process, but most of them are Canadian. And the news in our politics directly affects the stock market. So like when the Georgia runoff went blue recently, that was a huge jump for the cannabis ETF.
Right. Okay.
When Biden was elected, that was a huge jump for the cannabis ETF.
Okay.
So there's two reasons that
Trump wasn't going to legalize weed?
Trump was for it, but then it just kind of lay dead in the Senate, which is what tends to happen.
So he was going to be like, all right, I'm not really trying to right,
gotcha. Which is kind of what Chuck Schumer is going through right now, because Chuck Schumer has promised the acceleration of legislation over the next few months. So we're talking very short periods of time. And right now, actually, Biden is working on reforming the filibuster. So there's going to be no chance that these guys can filibuster us anymore.
For anybody out there that doesn't know what a filibuster is, what is a filibuster? Is that when people just talk so no laws get passed? Is that what a filibuster is?
Exactly. Well, the filibuster is a 50-50. It's, it used to be a 2/3 vote was needed through the Senate to get a bill passed.
Right.
Then they realized that basically all you had to do was lobby a third of the House to filibuster to keep bills from passing and to lay dead in Senate. So they reformed it to a 3/5 policy. Still, the House found a way to filibuster and keep things from being passed on the Republican side mostly. And now it's at a 50-50, and yet still they have found a way to filibuster. So it's definitely time for reform of the filibuster and reform of marijuana laws, as soon as possible.
Now, being in the Minna, it's starting to kick in, fellas. What is this that we're smoking on right here, by the way?
It tastes
what
like,
you gave me last night.
Tastes like some blueberries.
Is that blueberry?
Yeah.
Okay. God damn. Do you see enough African Americans in the industry as far as owners? Is that something as you're moving around? Do you see brothers? Like I said, just for the record, you went to Sanford with me. We went to Sanford, so you know what Sanford looked like. It was highly brothers. He was the only white guy there.
One of them. Yeah.
One of the only white guys in Sanford. Now, knowing how on the flip side, it was a lot of brothers who dealt in marijuana, being on the other side now. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm on the side where I'm talking to these dispensary owners. I'm on the other side of it. Do you see as much African Americans? Or do you see that's still a sector that, damn, I don't see the brothers in the sector like I did when I was, you know what I mean? When I was in there, when I say, hey,
that is a very interesting question, and I do have an answer for you. And it's actually, I feel kind of proud that I do have an answer for that. No, there is not enough involvement in black-owned cannabis dispensaries, delivery companies, and grows. And this is an issue. One of the bigger issues when I still own a delivery company called Lickety Spliff, and our main delivery clientele was Southern Long Beach and North Orange County. Okay. Now, one thing you know when you're dividing up your delivery routes is that if you're working a melting pot crew, which means a mixed race crew, you want to stay out of the kind of the racially zoned areas. So I'm not going to go and deliver. I'm not going to make most of my business in Santa Ana, for example, or most of my business in Compton.
Right.
Or most of my business
Watts.
in East Long Beach,
right.
or Watts or Inglewood, or these are black communities. These are designated as black communities for a reason. It's same thing with Little Saigon, Little Tokyo, Filipino Town. These are safe harbors for people that want to move into their culturally diverse neighborhoods.
Oh my God.
And the thing about that is you have to respect that. Now, if I'm working in Long Beach, this is obviously a melting pot city. So if I'm going to deliver in areas that are, similar to like Uptown in Minneapolis, or,
Got you. Yeah.
Just kind of the melting pot area of the downtown area.
Yeah.
But as far as, East Long Beach and Compton and Inglewood, one of the big problems there was the only communities coming in there were, Asian delivery companies and,
Middle Eastern.
This was causing real turmoil because the dispensaries and delivery services were not black owned, and they were going into Compton and Long Beach. They were white owned, they were Asian owned, or they were Latino or Latin owned. And that has changed. So over the past few years, there has been an actual big involvement from the black community in Compton, and retaking their business fronts and making them black owned. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I was working with a company.
Can we hit the applause right here? I don't have my thing, but I got the fake machine. Luckily, we got Luther on the board. Luther Magician. You know who Luther is. He's running shit like the motherfucking captain. We hitting the applause. That is so beautiful, because as I'm hearing you talk about that, I'm wondering if anybody's going to get in there and do it, but it's good to see that it's starting to happen. Black people are starting to get involved and saying, hey, let's take our communities and let's get involved in this ever-growing game.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What are the pressures like? Is it stressful? I mean, you got a lot of shit going on out there, Austin. You got a lot of things that you're doing. I mean, even when I'm here, you're running 50 million different places. Is it a stressful, and does the business kind of take away from, because this is cool. This is something that eases stress. So do you find that the fast-paced business of it all, does it merge good with what you like about weed? I like the chillness about the weed.
Yeah.
But now that I'm having employees and I'm having responsibilities and I'm having all these things, does it at all take the fun away from it, or is it still fun as shit?
So, sometimes I like to get stoned before I run the house, and sometimes it's a little overwhelming.
Okay.
And
okay.
I feel like, that's a good answer for that is, there's a thin line to walk, between recreational, medicinal, industrial. One of the things that I really like about this industry is when I was running my delivery company, one thing I noticed is that 50% of our deliveries were true recreational. It was people, they were just buying marijuana to,
get high.
Yeah. The end of the day, high, whatever. Chill. High, just whatever high. Yeah. Then 50% of the community was buying it because they were cancer patients. I mean, we had patients that were on their deathbed that we brought tinctures to because they were unable to swallow pills. There was a definite necessity in the medical community, and for that reason, the sense of professionalism and a sense of excellence, or trying to find a way to run this industry to a professional standard
for the sake of
was
the
instilled
people.
for
Right.
sure.
Right.
This is not just a bunch of stoners.
Right.
And on the flip side of that, people working in the industry also need to realize that there is, extremely hard work. This is farming. A lot of people, they think cannabis and forget the fact that it's legitimate farming, and I've never met a farmer that doesn't work his ass off. If you ever sit down with some farmers and you make the mistake of asking any of them if they work hard, you're going to get a quick and sweet answer. But, the answer is
Fuck
yes. Yeah. The answer is
Shit,
definitely.
yeah.
We put in extra hours. We don't stop till the work is done. And our main goal is, pride in our work. What the product ends up looking like, if the investors are happy at the end of the day, if the customers are happy at the end of the day, and are we providing to the right market, and from there, I think it's really just kind of getting into community involvement. And that's what I would like to hope to do next is to become more community involved once we're, seriously in the green and able to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. Because that does have a lot to do with, I even think the legislation of it, is that stereotype or that kind of cloak of stoners, you know what I'm saying? How business and how can we have this really be something that works guaranteed for the customers if we got a bunch of stoners behind it, running it. And so for them to see people like you and to see other people, like I say, that are taking over this industry, and a lot of them are young. These are the young guys. These are the hip hop generation that is taking this new cannabis culture and bringing it to the forefront. So I'm proud of you, man. I'm very proud of what you've done. That. Yeah, and I'm very glad that you keep giving me, you know what I mean, to go home with every day.
If I could, I'd like to say likewise with the podcast, man. This is impressive stuff, and I'm just happy to be on doing this interview with you, bro.
Yeah, thank you.
Really cool, and I'm a big fan.
See, I'm a bad motherfucker, y'all. I'm a bad motherfucker. I told you. One of the questions that I did want to ask you is, when did you first smoke weed?
Oh, that's a great question. I actually do remember the first time that I really felt high from marijuana, and I think I was 15 years old, maybe 14, and I was in a tent.
It wasn't with me, was it?
I don't know. I'm not
just
sure.
Making sure.
But, yeah.
All right, go ahead.
So I was in a tent, and it could have been, but I remember. So everything's in the ether when you've been smoking for 25 years too.
Facts.
But the one I really remember, the first one I really remember, where I was like, "Wow, I'm definitely stoned, and this is something I could get used to." Was I was in a tent in front of my house. I was camping in my front yard, and I had some friends from the Riverside neighborhood down, and we were all in a tent. We scored some pot. From a friend of mine's mom out of her jar. And I think at that time the best marijuana was riddled with seeds, and there was more sticks than green, and I think everybody was still talking about the 4-finger lid.
Yeah,
I used to get a 4-finger
goddamn
lid.
You date yourself now playing 4-finger lid from Jamaican Sam.
Right.
Yeah, good.
And I just remember running around outside and just feeling like this is it, man.
This is it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in love.
Right.
This is a relationship I'm not going to be out of very soon.
And you don't ever see yourself
25 years later, we're still strong. Yeah.
Now you got kids, Austin.
Yes.
How do you, now this is a business, like I said, and I've known you not to really be a person to hide what you do in anything. You're not a good hider. You're in the open. So you having kids, you having a wife, is this something that you try to shelter away from your kids? Or is this something that you're really trying to break down the stereotypes everywhere that you go, where, look, this is a business for dad. You know what I'm saying? Where we live, it's legal. You know what I'm saying? And this is a way that we develop income. So how do you deal with it having kids?
So I was torn at first on that subject, and that's a good question. Mine isn't maybe the most popular point of view, but it's one from definitely inside the industry and somebody that's thought about what you're saying to an extent. And one thing I can say is, I don't want my kids going to their Montessori and going, Daddy had me rolling joints all night. It was super fun. But if my daughter wants to come out and, I'm watering plants and this is my garden, this is something that I believe should be accepted. should be descheduled and should be legal and as easily as accessible as cigarettes and alcohol are all over this planet, I'm going to let them water the plants with me. I'm going to let them stir the nutrients. I'm going to let them pick up plants and move them around. That's what the kids want to do. And I don't see any harm in the actual farming aspects of it. And yes, it is a different culture here. So it is a little more accepted for that behavior to take place. As far as the recreational aspects of the industry, I do want to keep that separate and hidden. You know, when it comes to pulling out a bong or a pipe or doing a dab.
Got you. Yeah, okay, so I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I got it. So when Dad is dealing with the plants and the dirt and the nature of it all, it's no different than if I have a fern or a petunia. The kids view it no different. It's a plant. Daddy's dealing with the plant. Once I roll it up and I start smoking it, now I don't want to promote that part to my kids. And I got you.
I want to leave that decision up to them.
Up to them. Nice. That's a nice way.
And I feel like that respects the industry as a whole because, you know, you're not allowed to smoke marijuana until you're the age of 21 as it is. And that's like alcohol, you know. And, you know, that's, you know.
That's how it is. That's how it is. Yeah, I think that's a good way to go. Well, Austin, like I said, I know you're busy, and I appreciate you giving me this whole tour of your place. Great place, cool workers.
Thank you.
Great fucking weed. What are some strains? Is there anything else you want to plug out there for the people that's watching? Is a way that they can.
Well, get ready to hear from Power Leaf. We're going to be branding pretty soon. Okay. We're going to have some incredible strains. If people are out there looking to make some connections with an awesome, industrial setting, indoor operation, then reach out to us, let us know, and hopefully you guys come back and see us when we're a little more built out.
We're coming back, Austin. We're coming back. Every time you get a new tent, I'll be coming back in this motherfucker. Every time you put a new tent, I'll be trying to get Luther. Luther, can we do another episode? Now, Luther don't smoke, everybody. My cameraman don't smoke, so I'll be in here smoking and shit, and he be shaking his head. God damn this motherfucker. But I asked him, what you gonna do with Snoop Dogg? What you gonna do, Luther, when the podcast go and Snoop Dogg's in this motherfucker and he get to rolling? What, you gonna leave? You gonna get up out of here, Luther? We finna have a good old time. No, I'll just play it. Thank you, everybody, for watching the podcast. And you said Power Leaf, right?
Power Leaf. Yes.
Power Leaf. Everybody put that on the bottom of the screen. Power Leaf. Make sure you keep a lookout for that. And we will come back, man. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. North Star Podcast. We out, baby.